As Windows has matured from version to version, it's gotten easier and easier to configure networking, but that's still an area that your average consumer finds difficult to understand. Now, most people, they can use Word and they know how to print and they can open and save files, but ask them to connect two PCs together so they can share files, and there's the problem. Now, Microsoft knows this too, and to make configuring networking easier, in Windows 7, they've come up with a whole new way of networking called a HomeGroup. A HomeGroup is a really simple way of connecting Windows 7 computers and printers in a basic network so that devices in the home group, they can communicate with each other. Now, although it's primarily aimed at home users, even computers that are members of a domain, they can still participate in a home group. Now, they'll still be part of their original domain, but they'll be able to access the home group as well. But to dispel those security concerns you might have, if you're a member of a home group, you won't be able to access the domain computer's files, but the domain member can access the home group files. And that's good, since a lot of corporate users will want to bring their notebooks home and do some work. That way they can come home, they can join their home group to get access to their other files and folders and their printers, but not risk other people accessing their confidential work files from the domain. So it's a win-win scenario. Now, for those of you that have had trouble with networking in the past though, I'm sure you're going to love this home group feature, as it really is networking made easy. It's really, really easy to get configured. So let's move on and let's see how we can configure a home group. So on our Windows 7 machine here, down in the bottom right, we're going to click on our network icon in this system notification area, and then we're going to click on this link here to open up the networking and sharing center. Now, in order for you to be able to configure a home group, you'll need to have your network type here set to a home network. Now, you'll notice here that in the middle of the screen that my active network is a work network. So we'll need to change this first of all to a home network, and we'll do that by clicking this hyperlink and then choosing the top option, a home network. Now, this will automatically pop up a new window where we're able to configure a home group. But before we go ahead and we start enabling this feature, I'm just going to click cancel here. That way, if you accidentally forget to enable it here, we'll show you how you can do it. So we'll click cancel, and you can see that we have a home network profile. And down the bottom here, we've got an option here to choose a home group and create some sharing options. So let's click this link, and we'll click the button here to create a home group. And you'll see that we're back at the same window as we were before. Now, alternatively, if you don't like that option, we can click on the Start button. We can open up the Control panel. We can go to Network and Internet, and you can see we've got a home group option right here. All right, so let's give this link a click, and we'll create a home group. Okay, well, we've been at this window a couple of times here, and what we can do here is choose what sorts of files that we want to share with other computers that are running Windows 7. Now, the default here is to share our pictures library, our music library, our videos, and our printers, but you can also include the documents library as well, or if you like, you can remove any of these from this list here. It's your choice what libraries you want to share. So let's just select them all here for the sake of this argument, and we'll click Next. And our home group is going to be created. Now, that's it really. That was pretty simple, and the only thing we have to do now is remember this password here, which is a random password that appears. So before you just blaze off ahead and click Finish, make sure that you do write this password down. So I'm just going to jot this password down. In fact, I'm going to click Start, and let's use our sticky note feature here, and I'm going to paste that right in there. That way I've just got a mental note of it there. And now we're done with this screen here. You can print it, of course, if you like. For now, we'll just click Finish. Okay, well, at this point, our home group is live. It's running, and the only thing we really need to do at this point is to add another Windows 7 machine to our home group. I mean, networking is no good if you only have one device, right? So what we'll do now is we'll switch over to another Windows 7 machine, and we're going to have to do the same thing on that machine. Okay, well, I've just switched over to a different machine now, which of course is running Windows 7 as well. So again, down here in the bottom right, we'll click on our network icon in the system notification area, and we'll click this link to open our network and sharing center. Now, like before, this system here is running as a work network, so we'll give that link a click there and we'll change it to a home network. And just as we did previously, this window is again going to pop up the home group window. Now, we have seen this before, and we are going to click cancel here because we already have a home group. This window here is only used to create a new one, not to join an existing one. So here we're going to click cancel. Now, down the bottom here, we're going to choose a home group and sharing options link. We'll click that. And this window here tells me that the user called Trainer over on a machine called Windows 7A. Now, this machine is called Windows 7B, by the way. So over on a different machine, Windows 7A, a user called Trainer has already created a home group on the network. So as long as we know the password, we can join that home group. So we're going to click the Join Now button. Now, like before, we can also choose what we want to share, and this could be different to the other PC we just configured. Now, on that machine, Windows 7A, we allowed it to share everything. But let's say that on this machine, I only want to share, say, the pictures and the videos folder, so I'm going to uncheck the other two, and then we'll click Next. Now, at this point, we need to enter in the password that we were assigned when we created the home group. So there's my password. We've typed it in there. Now we'll click Next, and our password will be verified. And if we typed it all in correctly, we'll then be allowed to join the home group. And there you go. We're now networked. As you can see, we have joined our home group as easy as that. So we'll click Finish. And if we now go and click on the Start button and open up Computer, you'll see that over here on the left-hand side of Windows Explorer, let's just expand this a little bit, you can see that we've now got this new option. If I can just grab the slider bar there, this new option here called Home Group. And in that home group is our other computer. So if we select this other user's computer, inside here we can see all of the things that that user's sharing. So we can see the documents folders here, the music, the pictures, and the videos. So they're all there, ready to be accessed by me on this machine. Now, the only thing that's really missing from this list here is a printer, and that's because this machine, Windows 7A, didn't have a printer attached when we first created the home group. So let's just assume that this PC here has a printer. In fact, let's assume that the PC we're on right now, Windows 7B, has a printer. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be a video about printers, so what we'll do is we'll run through a quick wizard. So we'll click Start, we'll choose Devices and Printers, and what we'll do is we'll choose to add a printer. Now, obviously, this isn't intended to be a video about printers, so what we'll do is we'll run through this quickly. We'll talk about printers in more detail in another video. So for now, I'm just going to choose a network printer. Now I'm going to manually set this up. I'll click this button down the bottom that the printer isn't listed. I'm going to add it in using a TCP/IP address. We'll click Next. And we're just going to add in an IP address. We'll say 10.0.0.150. And I'm going to uncheck this box here because my printer doesn't actually exist. We're just setting up the driver here for now. We'll click Next. Now we'll need to choose a print driver. So let's just say that I'm using an HP 915. We'll select that. We'll choose Next. I'll leave the default name here. I'm happy with that. We'll click Next. And then our printer will be installed. Now, final step is to choose if we want to share this printer, and I'm happy to do that, so I'll just leave the default here to share this printer as this name. We'll click Next, and then we're done. Now, you might recall that when I set this machine up to join the home group, that I didn't choose to share printers. I only chose to share pictures and videos, I think, from memory. So let's quickly fix that, and we'll go and share our printers as well. So we'll need to go back to our home group settings, and if you get lost, all you need to do is come down to the bottom here, click on the network icon here in the system tray area, or the system notification area. We'll open our network and sharing center console. And from here, right in the middle here in our home group section, you can see this joined hyperlink we have. And if we click that, right at the top, you can see what we're currently sharing, which of course is pictures and videos. So let's check the box here to also share our printers, and we'll click Save Changes. Now, before we go and switch back to our original machine, let's click Start, and we'll go and open up our Pictures folder here on this machine. And inside here, I'm going to right-click. We'll choose to create a new bitmap image. And let's just give it a name of PC2. That way we know this file is actually saved here on our second PC. Now let's right click this file and we'll choose Edit. And that'll open up the file in Windows Paint. So let's just quickly write a little bit of garbage here on this file so we can identify it as coming from this machine. In fact, we'll just quickly write PC2 here. And let's just close the file and we'll save the changes. Right, and there's our file. Okay, so I've just switched back to our original Windows 7 machine. So here we're going to go and click on Start, and we'll open up Computer. Now if we expand this so we can see what's going on here, you'll notice here on the left-hand side, there's our HomeGroup link that contains our other computer, Windows 7B. So let's select that. And on this machine, we can only see our pictures and our videos library, since they're the only libraries that we decided to share. So let's double click on the pictures folder here, the pictures library, and inside you can see the picture we just created. So if we double click on it, there it is, networked, available, and ready to be accessed from this machine. But what about our printer that we shared? Well, that's where this HomeGroup feature is really smart. You see, if we go and click Start, and we'll select Devices and Printers, look what we've got right here. We've got a printer, but not just any printer. We already have the printer that's connected to our other machine. It's been automatically added to this one, and we didn't have to do anything. Now, best of all, since this machine didn't even have its own printer, this is now the default printer. And if we try to print from an application like Word, for example, it's going to print to the printer that's not even directly connected to this machine. So we didn't have to set up a printer on this machine. We didn't have to locate and install any drivers. We did absolutely nothing. And the printer that's connected to our other Windows 7 computer has automatically been added here to this machine. Now, whether you love or you hate Microsoft, you have to give them credit here. This is really simple stuff. And when you might have a family with a couple of PCs and a couple of printers, let's say you've got a PC and a printer in the study, and Dad's got his notebook, which he leaves on the kitchen table, which makes Mum angry. The kids have PCs in their rooms, maybe with their own printer. All it takes is one person to create the HomeGroup, and others can join it, and everything that you choose to share is automatically shared and accessible by the others. So it's really, really simple stuff, and this should make even the average consumer that isn't maybe so good with networking really, really happy. Now, before we wrap up this video though, let's poke around a little more here, as there's a couple of other things that you really ought to know about HomeGroups. So let's open up our Network and Sharing Center again by clicking on our icon here in the System Notification area, and you should be familiar with that by now. And down the bottom here, we're going to choose our HomeGroup and Sharing Options hyperlink. Now, we have seen this window before. From here, you can choose what file types you want to share, and if, of course, you want to share printers. So bear in mind that if you do share, say, pictures, what you're really sharing is this folder right here. So if you share music, you're sharing your music library folder, and documents, and of course videos are exactly the same thing. Of course, if we choose to share our printers, that'll share any printer you have, and we've already seen that in action. Now, you'll also note here that in the middle of this window we can share our media with devices, or in other words, we could set up Windows 7 machines in our HomeGroup as media hubs, if you like, and then other devices, they can stream media like video and music over the network or even over the internet. So if you do choose to enable this feature, it will share to all devices on your network, which is fine if that's what you want to do. Now, if that's the case, simply check the box here and then click the Save button. But if there's devices that you don't want to share with, then we'll click this hyperlink here, choose Media Streaming Options instead. And from here, we'll be able to choose all devices on our network which will allow to be involved in media sharing. So Windows here has found all of these machines and devices that are capable of receiving media streams, and we can set them to either be allowed or blocked. Now, you'll also note that next to these devices, we've also got an option here to customize the settings. And if we click Customize, we can either go with the default settings, or we can uncheck this box. We could choose to only allow this box to stream media that meets our own rating standards. And these are ratings that you'd personally set for your own files. So it's currently set to allow any rated file to be streamed over the network, but if I change this to one of these other settings, I could choose that I'll only ever allow files that I've personally rated with 3 stars or higher, for example, to be streamed over the network. Now over here on the right, we could also set up parental ratings as well. You see, if I was setting this machine up as a media hub for the family and my son has a PC in his own bedroom, well, I might want to prevent him from watching movies or TV shows that's meant for adults. But if I want to allow him to watch his own kiddie shows, then I could use these ratings to enable him to have those files streamed. All right, well, let's cancel this here, and I'm just going to go with these default settings. And if you do want to change these default settings, by the way, up the top here is the link which brings up exactly the same window. But when we set it here, this is going to change the default settings for any devices on the network, whereas changing it here is only going to change it for the device you've selected. All right, well, let's click OK, and our files are now ready to be streamed. Now, here's something else that's really cool. We can even control other devices from this machine. So let's say that one of the devices in my network's a media player, which I've got hooked up to my LCD TV. Now, I can even start playing media on that device from here if the device supports it. So if I go and open up Windows Media Player, if you've set up your other machines in your home group the same as this one, we'll be able to see, if we select our Windows 7B computer here on the left-hand side, and let's select, say, videos, we'll be able to play this file, which of course is a file that's stored on our other machine. We'll be able to play it over the network from our other machine. Now, if I go to my own videos section here in my computer, and there it is, and we'll go into our sample videos folder. And if we right click on our sample wildlife video that we have here, you'll see here that we've got an option of playing this file on our other computer. Now, the only gotcha really here is that inside our media player, if we select the stream menu here, we will need to enable remote control of our media player, or you won't ever see this play option appear for the remote device. So on our other machine, our Windows 7B machine, on that media player, this box here, or this menu option, would be enabled. All right, well, let's move on. Obviously, all of this home group sharing is great, but what happens when there's files and folders that you don't want to share? All right, well, let's go to our pictures folder. If we've got it somewhere here, there's our own pictures folder here on this machine. And let's right click inside here. We'll create a new folder. And let's call this one No Sharing. And we'll open up that folder and we'll right click inside here. We're going to create a new bitmap image. And I'm also going to give this a name of No Sharing. Now let's right click on this file. We'll choose Edit. Inside here, we're just going to write a big no so we can see that file. Let's save it. All right, and there we can see the thumbnail of that image quite clearly. Now let's go back to our pictures folder again. And again, we'll right click. We'll create a new folder. Let's call this one Read Only. We'll open up that folder and we're going to right click. We'll do the same thing as before. We'll create a new bitmap image. We'll call this one Read. And let's do the same again. We'll edit this particular image. We'll just say Read here. All right, we'll save that one. There's the thumbnail, and we'll do one more. We'll right click, we'll create a new folder. We'll call this folder Read Write, and we'll double click on the folder. One more time, we're going to create a new bitmap image inside here. And I'll call this one RW for Read Write. We'll edit that, and again we'll enter in an RW, and we'll save the file. Now you guys can probably guess where I'm going with this. Inside here we've got our sample pictures folder, which is already shared out using the default settings that we inherited, if you like, when we created our home group. And that, of course, is Read Write, meaning any user inside our home group is able to load up these files and they'll be able to edit them, delete them, and write to them. Now I've also got these 3 additional folders here that we've just created. So the first one here, No Sharing, we don't want to share that at all. We're going to share this folder, Read Only, but we'll only want users in the home group to be able to read the files, not change any of them. And we've got our final folder here, read write, where we'll allow any user in our home group to read the files and make changes to them. So we'll click on the first one here, no sharing. And this is of course the one that we don't want to allow home group users to access. So this is our private folder here. So we'll select our folder, and up here in the menu we see we've got this share with menu option. So let's select that, and we're going to set this to nobody. All right, now notice the little padlock icon appear. That shows us that this folder is protected from being shared. Now, if you happen to be on the other machine in our home group right now and you were looking at this folder, you would have just been kicked off and it would have disappeared from view. So let's select our next one, our read-only folder. Again, in the Share With menu, we'll select this to Home Group Read. And finally, with our Read-Write folder, again in the Share With menu, we're going to select this to Home Group Read-Write. Now, if there is a specific person in the home group that you'd like to share a folder or a file with, by the way, you can select the folder, and again in our Share With menu you can choose the bottom option, Specific People, and then simply choose the person from the list. Now, for the more advanced Windows users, what this Share With menu has really done is apply entries to the ACL, or the Access Control List, for the file or the folder. So let's quickly cancel this, and we'll right click here on our read-only folder, for example, and at the bottom we'll choose Properties. Then we'll choose the Security tab, and you'll note that we have this group here called Home Users. Now, this is a local group that's been created on this machine here, Windows 7A, and inside this group will be each user in the home group. Now, you'll also note that when we do select this home group users, you can see here the permissions in this case are read permissions. Now, conversely, if we just cancel this for a moment and we'll right click on our no sharing folder here, we'll choose Properties, then the Security tab, you'll see here that the home users group isn't even listed because they've been denied the ability to access this folder. So again, Microsoft, they've taken this whole networking thing and they've simplified the whole process of assigning permissions to the whole home group or to an individual user, and now it's really quite straightforward. Okay, so let's cancel this, and to recap, what we should have now is only 3 of these folders actually being shared. There's no sharing one, of course. We want to deny access to anyone else in the home group. So let's switch over to our other machine and let's see what we can see. So I've just switched over to the other Windows 7 machine, Windows 7B. So we'll click Start. We'll choose Computer. And let's just expand this window, and we'll expand our Windows 7A Trainers machine. And we'll select the Pictures folder. Now, what do we see? Well, we've got 3 folders for a start, not 4. The no sharing folder is obviously the one that's missing, and we can't see it because we chose to keep that folder private. However, the other 2 folders here are there. So firstly, let's go and open up this read-only folder, and let's try and add a new file to this folder. So we'll right-click, we'll choose, in fact, we'll add a new folder if you like. And you can see that we're denied the ability to do that, because as instructed, this folder is read-only to anyone else in the home group. Now, only the owner on the other machine will be able to make changes to anything inside this folder. All right, well, let's go back and let's test out the read-write folder. Now, in here, we should be able to make changes. So let's right-click. We'll create a new folder in here. And you can see we're able to do it. Now, if we also right-click on this image file and choose Edit, we also should be able to make and save changes to the file inside this folder, which of course we can. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's go back to our home group page. And there's actually another way of bringing it up that I never mentioned, and that's simply to click Start and type in Home Group and hit Enter, and you might find that option being more to your taste. All right, well, here there are a couple of remaining options that we should look at before we wrap up this video. Now, firstly, if you have forgotten what the password is for your home group, you can click this link and you can see your password right there, and that'll be a random password, so on yours it'll look slightly different to mine. And of course you could print this page if you want to keep a hard copy of that password. Now, if you don't happen to like this password or you want to change it, you can click on the second link here. Now, I will point out though that it does give you this warning here reminding you that you should have all of the computers in your home group switched on and not sleeping or hibernated. Plus, once you change this password, you'll need to run around to each machine in the home group and change their password to the same one as well. And that's rather logical, but something that you should be prepared to do straight away. So I will click change the password, and you'll have the ability to either set it up to whatever you like or choose the default one here. And if you don't like that, you can keep hitting refresh and it'll pick new passwords and it will just randomize it for you. So you can take the random option or simply enter in a password of your own choosing. All right, well, let's cancel this. Our third option from the bottom here is leaving the home group if we like. And remember that as long as one device is still in the home group, you can reconnect back to it at any time as long as you remember what the password is. So to leave, you'd simply click the link here, and if you're absolutely sure, and you can see we've successfully left the home group. All right, let's quickly rejoin that home group again. In fact, if we quickly go and click that leave the home group link again, you also note that there is an option here to not leave, but to change what you're currently sharing, which of course we could certainly do up here as well. Now, next option here is to configure the advanced sharing settings. And most of you listening to this video are probably not going to change the settings in here, but let's quickly just run through what they do. Now, at the top here in the network discovery section, network discovery is something we've covered in another video, but what this feature allows your computer to do is to discover other computers in your network, and it allows your machine to be discovered. Now, file and printer sharing is turned on, and if you turn this off, you're basically removing your machine from the home group because any other machines won't be able to access yours, which is the whole point of it being in the home group in the first place. So I certainly wouldn't recommend setting that to off. Now we can see that public folder sharing is turned on because we're in a home group. You see, in a normal Windows 7 machine that's not part of a home group, this setting will be turned off by default. So this is the setting that allows your default public folders to be shared. These are things like your pictures, your videos, your music, and your documents. So if we click on Start and just open up Computer here, and let's just go to our C drive and then our Users folder and then Public, these are the folders that any user on your machine can access because, well, they're public. So over here under our Libraries folder here on the left-hand side of our Explorer window, if we select our documents, our music, pictures, or videos, in each of these folders, you're going to see our sample videos, our sample pictures, our sample music, and so forth. Now, these are all our public folders. So going back here to our advanced sharing settings window, if we choose to turn this feature off, then those are the folders that will not be shared. Now we can see here that media streaming is on, and we've talked about media streaming. And for our file sharing connections, those will be encrypted with 128-bit encryption, which is the strongest option. So you really probably wouldn't want to use this 40 to 56-bit encryption unless you've got devices in your home group that don't support the 128-bit encryption. Now finally, we've got password protected sharing. It's turned on, and we saw how we'd have to change that password. Now you can turn it off if you like, but then you don't have any security. So personally, I wouldn't do that, but you might trust everyone in your home group, so that option is there for you if you choose to take advantage of it. And down the bottom here, we're also going to allow Windows to manage all of the home group connections. And if you're not a power user or someone that's really familiar with creating user accounts and assigning things like permissions, I'd leave everything in this window as it is. But if you're familiar with all of that sort of stuff, well, you could certainly override this if you like and do it all manually if you prefer. But hey, that just creates a lot more work for you, and I'd wonder why you'd even want to bother with a home group if you're going to do that. Right, now the final option we have at the bottom here is to start up the HomeGroup troubleshooter, which is designed to assist you in troubleshooting any problems that you might be having with your home group. Now obviously, my home group right now isn't having any problems, and in most cases you'll find any problems are likely to be more a network problem rather than a home group problem. But you can use this tool to help you out if you're in a jam and things aren't working as intended. And if you click this advanced link here, You can choose to automatically have Windows try and repair any errors, which you may as well leave that setting as it is. It certainly can't hurt. Simply click Next, and the wizard then is going to go off and try its best to identify any problems that you might be having. And there you go. The first thing it's actually suggesting, because I really don't have any problems, is networking, which, like I said, is likely to be a place to start looking when you do experience problems. Now, it also suggests that when troubleshooting HomeGroup problems, make sure the device you're trying to connect to is actually switched on and it's not hibernated or in a sleeping state, as devices simply won't respond unless they're up and running. Okay, so in this video, we've seen how to configure a Windows 7 HomeGroup. Now, I'm sure you're all going to agree that this is the easiest network that we've ever had to set up before. A couple of clicks and we're networked. Now, a couple of clicks, we can also control who can have access to our files or prevent files from being shared. Printers are shared automatically. That's a no-brainer. It's incredibly easy, and good on Microsoft for making it such a simple process. So there's really no need to shy away from networking anymore. When it's this easy, everyone can get involved and immediately start sharing their stuff. So we hope you've enjoyed this video and would like to thank you for watching.